Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Ramirez, and I'm the Staff Development Educator with Diversicare Riverside here in St. Joseph. I've compiled some information to share with you in the hopes that you can implement this to reduce your risk of catching illnesses during the upcoming cold and flu season. After speaking with our medical director this last week, we're already seeing an uptick in reports on strep, flu, and also pink eye of all things. All three of these conditions extremely contagious but preventable if we, implement some good hygiene, into our daily routines. We used to think of international travel as being the way that we, contracted illnesses or things were brought into our country. But now we can be on the West Coast and, be in contact with an illness or germs and jump on a jet to do business 4 hours away across, on the East Coast. And we've transported an illness. It's no longer just a community challenge, but a country challenge. And by implementing these practices, it's not 100% safe that you won't contract an illness, but by not doing anything, it's almost 100% guarantee that you would catch something, like an illness, especially strep or flu. What the outside world or the general population calls as germs, the medical community refers to them as pathogens. Pathogens are disease germs, disease microbes, and these disease microbes need an environment to thrive, and what we refer to as a reservoir. A reservoir is a conducive environment for the pathogens to thrive, flourish, and also be able to be transferred around either with we have different ways of transferring these pathogens. We have the direct, indirect, and fomite. Fomite being a non-living object, tabletops, guardrails, chair rails. And within these three objects, with humans and animals, humans we have our personal habits, our hygiene habits, our social behaviors. All of that comes into play with transferring these pathogens around. And animals, they become hosts. They can have a parasite or something on them, and those are able to transfer to another host. Once the parasite has exhausted all of its resources, on that, they move on. And with the surfaces, that is just, your communal areas, which, with being in a rehab facility like I am, we have lots of visitors. I look around, it was funny last night at Kauffman Stadium, you're in this big area with 40,000 people, and all I can sit there and think is, what percentage of these people are going to come down with flu and strep? So, you can tell I've got the nurse behavior and looking around, what can we do to prevent, the illnesses being spread? With the transfer of the pathogens, we also have what's called vehicles. Vehicles are food, body fluids, water, also like IV drug use. They've got dirty needles, those are called vehicles for transferring. We have vectors, which again is the animal. That's the host transferring. And then we have biological, which are with our insect species. They can digest blood, they can digest necrotic or diseased tissue that has already started breaking down. And then once they pass away, they are also ingested by other insects, and it's exponential how biologically a disease can be spread. And I think we've seen that with different flus with the mosquitoes in particular. And once I've disclosed all these different ways that pathogens, how they harbor, where they can be transferred. I'll use C. diff as an example. As preventative measures with C. diff, this is when they no longer have a bacteria. They've taken so many antibiotics, their body doesn't have the normal bacteria to function properly. This is a highly contagious condition and is transferred by splattering. It's when they have a very loose stool. It's liquid diarrhea. It's kind of gross, but that's what it is. And so we have to glove up, gown up, and make sure that we are not ever in contact with those type of body fluids. And there was a study done, and this is also in the microbiology book where this information was acquired. But they did a study with caregivers of these patients. They had some that did not glove up, which is the plastic gloves to keep their hands from being exposed. They had those that did not glove up versus those that did. There was a 40% increase of finding those pathogens on the caregivers that were taking care of these patients with this condition. In the same study, they also did hand washing, which hand washing is the most imperative, practical thing that you can implement to safeguard yourself from catching any contact type, pathogens. And with the hand washing that was implemented during the C. diff study, it was 72% higher for those who did not wash their hands versus those that do. So it obviously, good old soap. And I got soap here. They did some studies using the antibacterial soap versus just regular soap. This has no antibacterial properties to it. This is goat milk soap that I buy all the time for my own home. But it's the friction that comes into play. That's what helps break down these microbes and able to get them sloughed off the skin. In our own medical facility, we do not have the antibacterial gel. Our medical director had all of our gel dispensers removed because it was prompting our caregivers to not wash as often. And where we are, with me also overseeing care audits, we are sticklers on everybody washing their hands after giving cares, as you're going into a room, as you are preparing to feed a resident. And just out of, just to give you facts, I kept a tally on how many times I washed my hands today. And just today, and 3 hours of my day was spent in meetings and also doing presentations for education. Today I washed my hands 114 times. And I was there, I was there pretty early, but most of it was spent I was there I got there at around 12 midnight last night, and I did not leave the facility until 4 o'clock this afternoon. And 3 hours of that was spent in meetings, but I washed my hands 114 times throughout the course of that day, of today. And, just to sum up, or I can show you, the most important thing you can do by rubbing your fingers and also on top, the friction is the most important part of the hand washing. And you don't have to use blazing hot water. Use nice warm water, something that's comfortable, but it's the friction. And also the time used while you are doing, the procedure, the washing. You can sing happy birthday twice, or you can sing your ABCs, and that should be an adequate enough time. But again, just summarizing, to always wash your hands after you use the bathroom. Always wash your hands before you prepare food. Always wash your hands after you've handled raw meats, vegetables. Always rinse those off, and then wash your hands after you've rinsed those vegetables, because you don't know what herbicides have been on the vegetables. But that's the biggest safety precaution you can do. Gel's okay, but soap is better. So I wish you a very healthy flu and cold season, and remember, just keep washing those hands. Thanks.